Well, a very good afternoon to you from Aberfeldy. Statue of the Black Watch there. Very pretty flowers. I think we've got begonias. Yes, we've got begonias. Hello. I've just been along to see J.K. Rowling, but she wasn't in residence, unfortunately, but having a look at her fantastic property. Of course, the gates were firmly closed, and I didn't want to film in the vicinity. I think it's a bit unfair to give high publicity people's location, away, and so I respect people's privacy and decided not to show it on camera. But it is a very beautiful place, actually, absolutely stunning up here in River Tay. So what we've got is General Wage Bridge. This is the bridge that was built back in the 1730s, late 1730s. He'd covered most of the ground all the way from Crieff up to Aberfeldy, and of course the Wage Road continues out towards Loch Tummel and then heads over by Calvine and Dalwhinnie and up the Corriaric Pass to Fort Augustus. The purpose being, of course, as I mentioned a few times from the Wage Road around Amalree, Corrymuckloch area, was to give the troops quick access to quell any further uprisings from the Jacobites after the first uprising in 1715 under the Old Pretender. Obviously there was a second one when Bonnie Prince Charlie arrived in the shores up near Glenfinnan and gathered a few people together. Word spread that there was going to be a takeover. The thing is that there's a lot of misconceptions about what that was. It wasn't at all to do with Scotland versus England. The culmination of the Jacobite rising and the defeat, sadly, of the Jacobites at Culloden on the 16th of April 1746 was indeed not very often advised in the schools, I'm afraid, or in proper historical documents, but it was actually a civil war between the Catholics and the Protestants, and that's entirely what it was. Culloden had English soldiers fighting alongside the Scots, with Irish, but we also had the Irish on the English lines, and Scottish people on the English lines fighting against their Scots, even to the stage there was actually clan versus clan, brother versus brother on the same battlefield. Can you believe that? But it's true. So after it was bad enough what happened in 1746, but it was the aftermath of Culloden which was the most dire. The Duke of Cumberland, of course, was responsible for the wipeout, atrocious activities that happened, slaughter of thousands of men who were maimed and injured on the battlefield, were absolutely tortured and slaughtered, and that was the most cruelest part of the whole thing. Not only that, the Redcoats then embarked on a journey into Inverness, and anybody they saw were slaughtered, and that's continued for many years throughout the Highlands, where the playing of bagpipes was banned, the wearing of a tartan, and all sorts was banned until, I think, was it King George that came in and decided to repeal the act. But I'm in Aberfeldy, obviously, I haven't mentioned that, but that's the Black Watch statue. This is the Black Watch turf. Most of Perthshire is Black Watch country, and it's a fine statue. But what else was I going to talk about? Yes, I was in obviously on a bread run here in Aberfeldy, and I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that I could, mosey around the main street, and I think I saw one low vibrational, perhaps two. There was one low vibrational, which it wasn't too bad actually. It was, in fact, low vibrationals, even in Aberfeldy, seem to dress quite well, so it wasn't too bad actually. And then I saw that girl again. I saw her last summer. I was giving her compliments about how beautifully dressed she was and how well done up she was, and she told me she was going to work, and her heart was fluttering at the compliments. But I saw her in the co-op, but I thought I can't just zip round the aisles and make myself known, because she would probably think I was stalking her, which I wasn't. So I just continued to get my grated cheese, 2 for £5, and I thought, well, not bad, eh? Red Leicester cheese, 2 for £5. I hope it was Red Leicester, not double Gloucester. It doesn't go so well with macaroni cheese, does it? Rather pale and fatty, in my opinion. But it's gorgeous here, as it is in probably most of Perthshire, in fact most of Scotland at the moment. We're basking in it. It's absolutely wonderful. I haven't loaded anything for a couple of days. I'm afraid I've been rather busy. I've been in a few wood runs, and I've collected an additional 2 tons of wood over a couple of days. So I'm very pleased at my efforts and hard work. And I'll pop something up about those little escapades. Good morning, Pigeon, or good afternoon to you. And I should actually be over showing you a little bit of the River Tay, but well, I don't know if you wanted to see the River Tay. Well, let me close up my window of the motor car, roll a cigarette. We'll go and gather a bench over there, and I'll show you how low the Tay is. Just like the Almond was extremely low yesterday. I've never seen it so low. And the day before yesterday, I was obviously, I was sitting in the river bed, in the middle of the river, where the river water should flow. It was amazing. But these begonias are needing a water. They definitely are. This is a minimal. This is a tiny little dwarf specimen of a azalea or rhododendron. But it's very pretty, isn't it? It's all very pretty here. I think these are long-haired petunias. Yes, they are. How pleasant. How lovely. Hello, Petunia. You can tell she's a real female, this one, yeah. Hello, do you mind if I touch you? Right, Andy, we're going to get our tobacco and our water, and we'll sit down there for a little while and have a chat. Yeah, River Tay is extremely low at the moment, and obviously it comes from Loch Tay. Just along there, about 8 miles, is Loch Tay, 6 to 8 miles away at Kinmore. It's the most easterly end of Loch Tay. It runs all the way from Crieff, of course. Fantastic loch. And here we have, as I said, Wade's Bridge here at Aberfeldy. It's can only take one vehicle width crossing, because obviously they didn't realise that cars would have been produced. So horse and cart would have just zipped over there. It's a rather steep incline at both ends. You really have to attack that in first gear, or if you feel like it's second gear. But yeah, second gear. But yes, it's a lovely part of the countryside, I have to say. And there's a young swallow, it's a young swift. Look at them feeding on the insects above the waterline. Several of them too. These are baby ones. So they've just learned to fly. How gorgeous. But the Sweet Cicely is going back quickly this year. It's done its thing. It's all going to seed. And they look rather unsightly when they get tired and worn. These are the seed pods as well. So these produce even more and more. and they have the distinct aniseed taste to them. So if you like a flavoured drink with aniseed, just get yourself a few of these and crush them into a glass, maybe boiling water, and then stick it in the fridge, and you'll have a pleasant aniseed drink, quite safe to drink. And my hands are stinking of aniseed just by touching it. And the birds are all pruning their feathers and giving themselves an old scrub up next to the water, these ducks. But I'm not going to linger. I've got my homemade lemon drink. Fantastic. See all the lemon in there. And I'm going to collect tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow being Friday, I'm going to collect elderflower to make elderflower cordial, which I'll obviously take you through step by step on its processes for a lovely cordial drink. I don't want to be spending any time indoors. Obviously the weather's so pleasant, I don't want to be indoors. So I might defer it to if the clouds start to gather over the weekend, for example, and then we'll go collecting the elderflower. Let's just see what happens, eh? This monumental cairn to the Black Watch was erected in 1887, and in 1910 it was hit by lightning and split the whole thing down. So repairs were made. You can see the lightning conductor on here. Can you see? That's the lightning conductor. And back in the 1667, when this regiment was formed under a different name. Hello, Mr. Jackdaw. Unfortunately, where it was the regiment was first mustered on the opposite side of the bank, it was prone to flooding, so they decided that the memorial cairn should be on this side. Of course, the Black Watch under the first, was it the 42nd Highland Regiment, I think it was called, was disbanded in 1725, and then it was reborn, and basically to keep the peace in the Highland Glens. My own father, the Cameronians were formed to protect, well, simply protect the Protestants, and during the Civil War of the 1680s. And Richard Cameron, who was the who formed the Cameronian Regiment, my father was in the 9th Battalion. Was it Cameronian 9th Battalion? I've just forgotten the bloody regiment name. Yes, 9th Battalion 2nd Rifles. And they were disbanded in 1968. But anyway, Richard Cameron was hung. There was thousands and thousands of Scots were slaughtered for their religious beliefs, and Richard Cameron was the chap, and simply they're called the Covenanters, and in essence the right to the covenant. The king wanted the population to praise the king before the good Lord, and thousands of Scots didn't want this, so it ended up in a civil war in Scotland. It was a bloody time. It was apparently in Edinburgh the bodies were in places 10 deep, women and children and men all slaughtered for their religious beliefs. There's a lot more to that story. I may return to that at another time, because what I'm talking about is little to do with the Black Watch. Although the Black Watch were, of course, sent to dispel any troubles in Scotland and elsewhere. Yeah, I don't think the history books paint a accurate picture of all that happened. They've hidden a lot of the information. Beautiful copper beach just behind the monument. But I think the Black Watch were officially, although they disbanded in 1725 under the first name, I think they regrouped, and they've been in existence since 1743. I don't know, I'm not a military historian, I just what I consider. And these are these little poppies which are placed at the in remembrance to so many men and women who have been killed needlessly, I'd say, in so many conflicts through our history. Anyway, I shall leave this statue and bow my head to all these troops. Just finally, I think it's worth mentioning, I'll just step back because there's a group of Australians chatting amongst themselves over there, which is alright. I always find Australians speak rather loudly, a bit like Italians, and yes, a bit like Italians actually. And Canadians, yes, Canadians can talk rather loudly as well. So I'll come over here to the river, but viewing that Black Watch statue, I think it's worth mentioning, and I think a lot of Scottish people forget about this. But with the present conflict that we have in Eastern Europe, if you cast your mind back to the Crimean War, made famous by Florence Nightingale, of course, with the first on-site hospitals for the injured men. Well, the 42nd Highland Regiment, the Black Watch, who were responsible for the charge of the Light Brigade, these men were slaughtered in their thousands in Crimea. And Crimea, of course, is now back in Russian hands. But it is a disputed land between Ukrainians and the Russians. But during the Crimea War, it was mostly Scottish who gave their lives in the battles, and they were simply slaughtered. Rather than taken prisoner, they were just murdered. Thanks for listening to this little episode.